Hey guys and girls, my name is Alan and welcome to today's gameplay commentary. So as promised, I managed to get video done for today. Up a little bit later than I would have liked, but up nonetheless. So as you can see, it's...
I'll lead. You'll follow.
Alright, chill. As you can see, it's an Uncharted 4 multiplayer match for you to enjoy. Bounty Hunter to be specific, and we're playing on the map Auction House. And as you can see, I'm playing with a couple of friends of mine. We're in a 4-man party, and we do pick up a 5th later on to complete the team. But, well, I don't know how much work that actually contributes to the game. In terms of the game itself, I think it's a pretty decent match. This is, again, sort of early piece of gameplay, but I'm fairly experienced by this point. And, I think I put in a pretty decent performance. And, of course, shout out to my teammates who helped me to get the score that I did. And we won very convincingly, I will tell you that much. But I won't ruin the result at the end. You just have to wait and see what happens. Right, so in the previous Uncharted 4 video, I did do a sort of let's talk about subject, and the subject was the rise of esports, and more specifically how it's becoming more popular and how people perceive esports, what they think it is, and well, I guess my interpretation of it as well. So check that out. I'll link it on the screen now. I'll also link it in the description below, and that was last week's video, and I thought it was quite interesting. I mean, I don't know what you guys and girls thoughts if you watch it, and if you haven't, I said check it out. But I think it's a very interesting topic at the moment because of potentially the growth of esports, as I was talking about in that video, and the rise of its popularity of amongst people watching it and stuff like that, and of course taking part as well. Which I suppose leads me on to the next topic. What have I done for my competitive gaming career? I've done nothing. So update number, okay, I'm not going to call it update number 2 because I haven't actually done anything. But I said last week that I was going to try and get into a team. Haven't actually done that yet. I, as predicted, have spent a lot of time on Fortnite recently. Not a lot of time, but a couple of sessions on Fortnite, and I'm just doing other things, and I just haven't really gone into find a team. I need to just jump onto a website. There's plenty out there. This is where I think it's gonna be kind of fun to sort of document it. I'm definitely gonna outline a report. I'm gonna talk about obviously what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So if you kind of want to get into the same sort of thing, then maybe you can take sort of, well, again, I use the word loosely. You can sort of take direction from me just because I've done it, but not necessarily because I'm doing it well or anything like that. Right. So the few things that I didn't manage to cover in last week's video regarding esports is the things that I was going to talk about today, and one of those topics is how sports clubs in the UK are slightly different to sports clubs in the rest of the world. So this is something my friend, we were talking about it and he sort of mentioned it. I didn't come up with this myself. So he was talking about how in countries like America, mainland Europe, you have sports teams, but for example in the UK, Manchester United is just a football team, whereas in America, I don't know, I can't think of a team right now, or mainland Europe, they have sports clubs. So what that means is they have a football team, or whatever the equivalent is, American football team, and then they have other sports who also play for that team. So they might have basketball, for example, baseball. I don't know, I'm just something like that. But the point is they have different sports for their teams, so they're playing under the same banner but different sports, hence why they're called sports clubs. When in the UK it's just a football club because they only have football as the sport that the team's representing. So in that respect, it's a natural progression for an esport, if it becomes popular, to be picked up by the sports clubs. You see what I mean? So, I mean, okay, in the UK it's kind of hard to explain because, as I said, they don't really have sports clubs per se. But in mainland Europe, in America, it would just be another division, right? So they'd have basketball, they'd have football, they'd have American football, whatever. And then they'd have, I don't know, Call of Duty, they'd have Overwatch, they'd have something like that. And I guess another good thing about esports is that it doesn't require too much effort. Like, you don't need a stadium to okay, if you want to watch games, I guess you could organize a stadium, but you don't need like a football pitch to play. You don't need equipment per se. All right, you need to buy decent PC, monitor, headset, internet, so on and so forth. But in terms of actually playing the game, it's pretty much anyone who's got access to this stuff. And PCs, games consoles, monitors, they're not, I mean, okay, they're not cheap, but they're not, you don't need to build like a training ground. You don't need a gym. You don't need, you don't need to hire physios and all the rest of it. I mean, I guess you could do if you're top level, but when you're starting out, you don't need any of this stuff. You just need to play the game that you enjoy. And I think, again, that's kind of good because it means that just anybody who's got the skill and the passion and the perseverance to play these games could potentially do well. So I think that's kind of cool. And yeah, I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see how far into this future it goes. But I thought that's quite an interesting point that my friend made, because as I said, in the UK it's not easy to understand, but if you live in, as I said, Europe or America, then having a sports club and then seeing them pick up different divisions for different sports, even if it's a digital sport, again, we need to find a better name for esports. I haven't thought of one yet. Let me know if you found a better one. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's something they could potentially do. So it's kind of exciting, and well, we just have to wait and see how it goes. And so, in line with what I've said there, some American football teams have actually started picking up teams, creating teams, whatever, sending out scouts to try and find players to form a team, and things like, I think Overwatch is one of the games at the moment, so that's becoming quite a competitive, serious game. And obviously there's things like Dota and League of Legends and just those sort of games which have been around for a while now as well. And they do have massive followings. Maybe not necessarily in the UK, but in Asia I know for a fact that a lot of people watch these sports, and it's almost become like a family thing. Like the families over there, they sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Like they sort of not appreciate it. They sort of embrace it, I guess, as a sport. It's that popular. Like to watch an esports tournament over there is on par with watching like a league football tournament in the UK, for example. That's how popular it is in some countries in Asia, and it could become like that everywhere around the world. Obviously, we just need a couple of games which really stand out. Now, the other thing that I sort of touched on last week was that I think for esports to become as popular as it, as any other mainstream sport, is that we need to find sort of games that are consistent. It's gonna be very difficult to sort of follow a game which changes every year. So if Call of Duty went from boots on the ground and then suddenly space jumping the next year, nobody would watch that, because it would split the audience and people wouldn't really follow it. Because obviously one year people would like it, next year people wouldn't. You wouldn't get continuity, and so therefore you wouldn't get the following, and therefore you don't get the viewership, and so it's not very popular. So games need to be a bit more consistent. That's where I think things like Counter-Strike have an advantage, and of course, League of Legends and Overwatch. They might change by adding new characters, new maps, but the core of it, the gameplay, is very similar. So, I mean, Call of Duty has that potential, but again, when they go from different settings, and obviously they change up the streaks, and sometimes they put in, like, for example, Black Ops 3 had the specialist classes. I mean, I guess if they streamlined that and made it a bit more, I just feel like they need to make it more consistent. Like, obviously, the basic formula is pretty standard. You shoot, you regen health, you've got perk system, you've got weapons, you can pick loadouts, that sort of thing. But I think they could make it a bit more rigid, certain games. I know things like S&D, Search and Destroy, haven't really changed too much over the years, but they add new game modes all the time. That's a good thing. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, Hardpoint was only added a few years back, but that's really popular. So they just need to, I guess, find a few more games like that where it's really competitive. I guess Domination, Capture the Flag. But Domination, I don't know, I remember watching like tournaments back in the day for MW2, and Domination wasn't that interesting for me. Like, it involved just sitting on a flag and just holding it down, and yeah, if people were fighting for the B flag, it's kind of interesting, but normally A and C were just sitting there doing nothing, so it wasn't always that great. CTF can be fun. I do like CTF. I guess you can't really have things like TDM and Kill Confirm. They never really have those sort of game modes for esports, which is fine, because again, it would just involve teams just camping, I suppose. But anyway, moving on from that. So the other topic, the final topic that I want to talk about is, because these teams are, well, these sports clubs or whatever, and obviously people creating these teams, esport teams, things are getting really serious, or they're sort of getting serious. And something I heard a couple of months back now, maybe a bit longer than that, but there's rumours that esports as a category could be added to an Olympic Games at some point in the future. This is obviously just, like just people talking stuff. It's not really, they're not actually deliberating adding it to the games. But wouldn't that be quite interesting? Imagine if it was accepted as an Olympic sport. That's recognition right there. I'm not big on sports. I do watch the Olympics when it comes around, just because I'm interested in the big tournaments, but I'm not a very sporty person. But I can imagine that if they accepted it to that sort of level, the Olympic stage, where people were playing for like medals, proper gold medals, silver, bronzes, that would be like proper recognition of esports as a mainstream thing. And I think it was Paris 2024 that they were talking about it. So I've still got time to potentially get into those games if I get my act together. 6 years, just about. But I don't know, I just think it's really cool that it could become, like, as I said, like you could be watching 100-meter sprint one day and then the finals of a competitive shooter the next day. mean, I personally, for one, would find that pretty interesting, pretty cool. Maybe they'll trial it at some point. Maybe, you know, obviously they'll have like a little period where they break it in, see if it's accepted. I can imagine there would be some opposition to it. There are going to be people out there who, again, like we talked about last week, who don't really understand what, again, we need to find a better word for it, esports, what it is. But, I mean, you could say that about a lot of the games. There are some, and I don't want to mock any Olympic sports, but there are some sports which I don't fully understand. But I appreciate that people train hard to get to where they are, to be, you know, the #1 team or the #1 person in the world. I just think to be able to say that you won an Olympic gold in doing something you enjoy, such as playing a game, that's a dream. That is a dream for some people, for damn sure. Right, so as you can see, the match has come to an end. We won very convincingly. They got absolutely hammered. I think there were several people down for like a majority of the game, but that's just because everyone who joined got battered and ended up leaving, or something else happened with the matchmaking, I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, I finished 20-0, nice sort of flawless. Shout out to my teammates again, as I said. We worked really well together, had each other's backs, picked each other up when we were down, and as you can see from the score line and obviously the kill deaths, we did a lot of work for each other. So yeah, until next time, if you enjoyed the video, consider tapping the like button, I really do appreciate it. And as always, if you've got any thoughts, shout out to share me regarding anything I've talked about today, let me know in the comment section below. But until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, take care, and I will see you later.
And now it's hard to breathe.